everybody, and welcome to Health Tips for Life. So excited to be with you on this Monday, and hope you are off to a good start of the week. Today, conversation with Dr. Stewart. We're going to be talking about very something that a lot of people of us, I'm included. I usually ask myself, why am I feeling tired? Sometimes just all of a sudden. Usually, I haven't felt this way for the last few years because I've changed so many things in my life when it comes down to my lifestyle per se. But it is a common question as to why do we feel tired? So this is what we're going to be talking with Dr. Stewart about today. So let me bring him in to this. Hello, Doc. How are you?
Hi, Dr. O. I'm
How
doing
you?
really well. And today we're going to be talking about perhaps my favorite topic
Yeah.
because so many people experience this. You can't downplay fatigue and the impact that it has on people. It's tragic.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of us always wonder, why do we get tired? I'm one of those. I used to ask that question. I don't say this anymore for the last, let's not anymore, but let's say for the last 7, 8, 10 years. I've always felt there is energy enough there. But I
Yeah.
remember those days when I would wake up and I'm tired. And I'm saying to myself, why am I feeling tired? Is this more than just physical, or is it mental, or is it something else that we are not aware of?
Or is it all of those put together plus a couple of unknown factors? You remember
Wow.
you remember what General George Patton said
What did he
about
say?
fatigue makes cowards of us all. And I have this joint psychology background and clinical
Hmm.
nutrition background. And joining these two together to make a real impact in lots of people's lives. As you already know, I've done this for decades and decades and I've seen thousands and thousands of people. And I had to make a difference, or they didn't come back and I didn't get paid. I
Hmm.
was in private practice most of that time. And so there had to be a result. And the result was bringing psychology together with nutrition. And as we talk about fatigue today, we're probably
Yeah.
going to talk how to bring those two together to make a real difference in people's lives.
Well, great, great. I think it's a topic that a lot of us needs to have an understanding about. So this way, when they feel tired, they at least have an understanding of what's causing to that, what's leading to it. Is it psychological? Is it from a physical standpoint of view? Is it lack of nutrition and so forth? So I'm glad we're having this conversation here. So let's start with the idea of uh, why do we feel tired?
Well, boy, there's a lot of things to this, and we're going to dive deeper into each one of these things.
Hmm.
One of part of this is poor sleep habits. We talk about this every single time about the importance of sleep. And this 8 to 9 hours of uninterrupted, truly restorative sleep is imperative to anyone's health and well being. You talk about weight control, you talk about preventive degenerative diseases like heart attack and
Hmm.
cancer, well, and productivity and living life in your terms. Sleep is at the foundation of this.
Wow.
Oh boy. And then we go to, well, what about what we eat?
No nutrition.
We've laughed. It's not a funny matter, but when I was in public schools working,
Hmm.
the number one thing kids were having for breakfast was apple strudel Pop Tarts. They're going short chain carbohydrates and sugar. The kids were
Mm.
washed out by about 10:15 every morning. And the typical family eats at fast food restaurants 3 times a week,
Mm.
and they eat box food. They're going, oh, there's a big conversation about fatigue and food.
Yeah.
Then I lost count as to how many times people said this to me, but it was, what was their number one conversation with God?
Mm.
God, how much longer do I have to be here? I'm going, first time I heard it, I was shocked.
Mm.
But after a while, I heard it so many times that I said, okay, a lot of people experience this. They are not happy here at all.
Mm.
Well, bad sleep, bad food, and now they're in a job that they hate.
Mm.
And so many people live paycheck to paycheck. They're hard up against it. They have all the payments they have to make. They have kids. They have all these stresses on them.
Yeah.
And then their primary relationships don't work. Going, husbands and wives fighting, divorce rate is very high. The number of people who actually will say out loud in words that they're happily married is less than 10%.
Wow.
So even the 48% that stay together, they'd like to find another alternative.
Mm.
And do these things all add up to stress? Yeah.
Which creates the idea, not the idea, but rather the consequences for seeing the results of fatigue. I'd like to tackle the nutrition part of it. And the
Okay.
reason why I want to tackle this, and I'm going to share with all of you here, just what I had, for example, for my meal today. I only eat 2 meals, one at 11, one at 6 o'clock. So in this morning, and the reason I want to say this, because you touched on the nutrition aspect. If you
Yeah.
have a good nutrition, you won't feel tired. And that's exactly how I feel. And I am not, just for the record, hey guys, I am not here to brag about what I eat. I won't do that. But what I had for breakfast, I had filet mignon, I had eggs, and I had cheese, and I had chopped bacon, one piece of bread of made out of seeds, and real butter.
Oh, that's a nice. So
Yeah.
you got good proteins, a variety
Yeah.
of different proteins, a
Hmm.
small amount of carbohydrates,
Hmm.
and fats.
Yeah.
You know, your system runs best on fat, not sugar and carbohydrates.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's,
And
I mean, if you talk about make a real difference in terms of weight control, in terms of how you feel,
yeah.
fats are the answer. Now, there has to
Yeah.
be good fats, good oils.
Of course, yeah, and we're gonna do a session later on about fats and so forth. One thing I did this morning also before I ate, I took a measurements for glucose
Oh, did
before
you?
that, and mine came up at 103. But
Well,
that's
you're not
on,
diabetic. We know
yeah,
that for sure.
yeah. So my point of bringing this is to highlight one thing. It's even at this hour, which is about what almost 2000 hours, and I still feel enough energy to go on for whatever. So
Well, you sleep enough. You're eating the
yes,
right kinds of things.
yeah,
And from what I know of you, you're doing work that you're not only good at, but that you actually enjoy.
I
Am
do.
I
I do.
correct?
That's why I give up a full-time teaching position to do this. You know, I like this one. So this is the
How
idea.
come I understand?
What was
Go
it,
ahead,
Rise?
please. I was going to say, how
No.
come I understand getting away from colleges and universities? You know, I worked
Ah,
at 5 of them, going,
well, yeah.
no, never again.
Yeah, let alone how the education system is dumbing down the students. That's the sad part of it all. So the reason,
Approximately 25%, by the way.
wow, 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 wow. So, well, that
In
was the reason why
1980,
I wanted to bring this up to highlight the importance. If you could elaborate more on this as far as nutrition, and if it is, are there any interaction between, let's say, our brain chemistry and the food, and is there any connections of other parts of the body that plays a role into all this?
oh, is there ever? So here's the core understanding of this. We're really talking about adrenal glands. And if you have
Mhm.
a fundamental understanding of this, you start to get the interplay and the beautiful complexity of the human body. So the adrenal glands are about this big,
Mhm.
and they sit right on top of your kidneys, which is in the middle of your back. These powerful little glands help heal your body, and they put out all the chemicals you need to deal with stress. So this is the number one system for dealing with stress. Now, there's some other parts of it that are involved with this. One is the hypothalamus, which which is constantly monitoring several things, including stress factors in your blood.
Mm-hmm.
Through a relatively simple process, it goes to another organ system, then goes to the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands start to pump out ways to help, especially with cortisol and other kinds of neurotransmitters, to help you cope with the situation, to help you deal effectively with your environment. Over years of all these violations that we'd call stress,
Mm-hmm.
the system, they call it adrenal fatigue, but that's not really quite what it is. The system gets deregulated, which means it not only doesn't operate optimally, it operates dramatically suboptimally. And so your body doesn't have a chance of feeling energized and living the life that you could live if your adrenal system worked wonderfully. So we say, well, one of the main factors here is the food that you eat. What's your biggest enemy? Well, there's several. Maybe top of the list is actually canola oil.
Wow.
Canola oil's in everything, but it's a kind of an oil that the human body has never seen before, and it has no way to cope with it. So one of the things it does is it clogs your arteries. It's highly inflammatory. And so you have to read the package of every darn thing you buy to see if it has canola oil in it, or some other seed or nut oil.
Mm-hmm.
What we know is for general use, not cooking, olive oil is absolutely the best. If you're going to cook, coconut oil is the best, or butter. These two, your body knows what to do with because they're actual food. And they're terrifically good in terms of your skin, and of course we want the oils from things like salmon.
Funny, that's what I had for dinner.
That's what I had for breakfast. 3 times a week.
Yeah.
All the stores around here carry sockeye salmon, not farmed.
No.
As we talked about before, farmed salmon is its own special story because it's gray and they dye it pink.
Ooh.
And the fats are full of toxins. But wild caught, you get the benefit of minerals from the ocean, you get the benefit of the oils from the fish, and you get great protein source. So 3 times a week serves human beings wonderfully, and don't cook it to death. When I bake it, it's 12 minutes. When I saute, it's 4 minutes. Then I eat it. And it's a little pink in the middle. I'm just fine with that. I want all those ingredients not to be cooked to death.
Yeah.
Then we definitely want a lot of vegetables in this mix, because they not only do they provide fiber, not only do they provide minerals, but they help stabilize blood sugar. And stabilized blood sugar is going to reduce the amount of cortisol from your adrenal glands, give them a rest, and not trigger other systems in your body to say, we need to control all this blood sugar that cookies and Pop-Tarts and other things are giving us. So fish, I like your filet mignon and bacon, because there's some quality bacon out there that doesn't have a bunch of stuff in it.
Yeah.
And so you get to regulate your blood sugar and take the stress off your adrenal glands by the food you eat.
Yeah. You mentioned the stress. Based on some reading that I've done, there are different types of stress. Am I correct in that?
And your adrenal glands are there to help you with stress. And you say, well, hold on, some of this stress is really quite positive. Yeah, well, some of it is. You know, if you're in a social situation, you're having a whole lot of fun, and your body perceives that as stressful. So your adrenal glands have to deal with that. There's chemical stress, and that includes things like alcohol. It includes bad water. It includes all the chemicals that come into our body, including what we breathe. terribly stressful. There's physical stress,
Mm-hmm.
pushing your body, and then there's thermal stress. Well, where we live, it gets real hot. And your adrenal glands have to cope with that. So it's the combination of these things, especially the chemical one with bad food and the emotional one with bad job, bad relationships, that are putting everyone over the edge. And something that people don't know is that when you sit in your driver's seat of your car and you turn the engine on, your stress level goes up. People know they are in real danger when they get in their cars. 70 miles an hour with 150 other people close by. And how many
So
times
how do we know, for example, if we are too stressed? Is there like a level to gauge how much stress you're under? I mean, how would an average person, let's say an average Joe, average Jane, does not understand this kind of terminologies and so forth, how will he or she will know, oh, I am under so much stress, or I am just having the right amount of stress?
Well, for one thing, there is no right amount of stress.
Okay.
We're designed to have moments of stress.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say it differently. Major studies of the plains animals of Africa. When I read this study, it really helped me figure this whole thing out. The plains animals, such as zebras and so on, wildebeest and so on, the amount of stress they experience is practically zero. They actually, when you look at their chemistry, this is hard to believe, but they live in a state of bliss. Now, there's 3 times that they don't live in bliss. Predator. So they go into real high stress during that time. But 2 minutes after the animal, the predator goes away, their stress level drops to 0 again.
Wow.
The second thing is no food. Well, no wonder. Yeah, that's very stressful. The third is mating season. Because of the competition, especially among the males for the females.
Interesting.
But the rest of the time, they're living really contented lives.
Wow.
So the amount of stress that human beings should experience is momentary, occasional, and by and large, non-existent.
Wow,
but we have a system for coping with it when it pops up. We're not designed to deal with it 24/7 and live and worry and fear and put up with all the things we have to put up with.
Interesting. I want to go back to talking about adrenal glands, just because it's fascinating. I don't know a lot about it. I'm just learning from what you are saying. So, the idea of what would happen if it stops completely? Completely.
Stopped what? Stop living?
Yeah, the functions.
Oh, you die within
Yeah.
minutes. If you don't have adrenal glands, you're dead.
Really?
It's called Graves' disease, and that means your adrenal glands have failed. I can't remember the exact statistic, but if your adrenal glands fail, I believe you're dead within 3 days.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So these 2 little things, they are essential for you being alive.
So this is for a complete shutdown, right?
This is if the adrenals completely shut down. They stop regulating.
Is there such thing as partial shutdown?
Yes, and we're living in it right now. And you can start to see it in children 6 and 7 years old. By the time they're 20 and 30 years old, it's severe. And by the time you see people in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they're really shot. They're leading dramatically diminished lives. Their productivity is hurt. They have trouble getting started. I mean, they don't want to take on new projects. Psychologically, what happens is a person gets an idea of something they want to do. Let's say they want to start searching for a new car. As any example of getting started with something. They say, new car, new car, new car. They get a picture of something they like, or they've seen it. They talk to some people about it. They say, well, I need to go to the dealership. Then they dip down into feelings. And if the feelings are, I'm really too tired to do that today, they get a tired feeling, that's adrenal function, and they don't do it. Or a new project that's good for them, a new savings plan they might want to put into place, some new business venture they'd like to try. They dip down into that fatigued feeling state, and then they won't do it. Or I'm going to start a new exercise program. It'd be good for me. I know where the facility is I can afford it. Oh, but I don't want to go today. I just feel so tired. And today turns into tomorrow, the next day, and the next week, and they end up not going. That's why so many people sign for gym memberships and don't go, because they're tired every day. You think that diminishes their life? Does it diminish their self-confidence? Does it hurt their self-esteem when they say, well, I'm somebody who gets good ideas, but I can't follow through because I'm tired?
Wow.
Let's try caffeine, instant ambition.
Hmm.
Well, it works. It works to a degree. Or if it didn't work to some degree, caffeine wouldn't be so popular. But it certainly is not how to live your life.
Yeah.
You want out of the stressful situations.
I had a chance to, given that I knew we're going to be talking about this fatigue stuff, and I had to learn a little bit, a few things too, because I was not shocked, but surprised by one particular aspect.
Yeah.
And their aspect is that there are two sort of different ways, especially when it comes down to these adrenal glands. I
Oh,
never
boy.
realized the functions of it. One of them is called the hyperfunction, and the other one's called hypofunction. Can you please elaborate on
Yes.
for our viewers?
Okay, so we're looking at adrenal dysregulation. And with some people, it goes to, as a desperation, it goes to, well, let me pump out more of the stress controlling, healing kinds of chemicals, such as cortisol and adrenaline and noradrenaline. Let me just pump those things out. And then what we have is severe inflammation. Things start to hurt all over your body. Then we start looking at blood sugar major deregulation. We look at insulin resistance, and we look at diabetes. Hyperactivity here is not your friend. It is a significant enemy, and diabetes is the end consequence, but you'll get to be miserable in the meantime. Then there's hypo. This is where the adrenal glands are so dysregulated that they can't pump out blood sugar regulation. They can't pump out the neurotransmitters, adrenaline and noradrenaline. And well, you see a bunch of symptoms here. You see people who can't stand up well. They start getting dizzy and weak because their blood pressure is being affected by the hypoactivity. They're dizzy. They get heart palpitations. If you ever had a heart palpitation, it's scary as anything, but we know what it is. You're in some stage of adrenal fatigue. And then you get to be as grumpy as anything.
Wow.
These people are irritable. They get insulin. I'm sorry. As if that's not bad enough, they wake up in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep. And that's blood sugar issues. And when you wake up at that time, your regulatory system is saying, I don't have enough blood sugar to survive the rest of the night. Going, well, that's not exactly true, but your body tells you that that's the truth. And so you're awake and you can't, and your body says, go get something to eat. It doesn't work because it's not going to take care of the adrenal fatigue. So yeah, there's these two types. And what we'd like to do is give people a way to know if they even have this. So we can go there if you would like right now, because we got quite a list of symptoms here for people to check. And then we have a way to test it yourself. All you need is a blood pressure cuff. You know, one of those things that fits on your arm here.
Yeah.
And in 6 minutes, you can do your own diagnosis. Very simple. Major symptoms of adrenal fatigue. Do you crave salt?
Mm.
We see people who they're going to pop those potato chips, so they're going to salt everything heavily. Uh-oh, that's a bad sign. You see people who are overly emotional. You know, driving someplace in the morning, there's frequently somebody who's honk, honk, honk there. I mean, they're overly emotional, they got adrenal fatigue, and they couldn't sleep last night. And everything just irritates the bejeebies out of them because they can't control it. They do a little bit of exercise, then they huff and they puff and they say, God, I'm so tired. Yeah, well, exercise causes stress. Your adrenal system is already dysregulated, and you just dysregulated it more. It's not that exercise is bad for you. It's just that it's a symptom letting you know that you've got a problem with fatigue, adrenal fatigue. How many times have you seen people that going, they've just lost focus. They just can't do it. And in conversations with people, I watch carefully to see if they drift off. If they drift off, I know it's an adrenal function. It's an adrenal function. And you can bring them back, but you got to keep in mind that you're only going to bring them back temporarily. They cannot focus, which means they cannot be high performance. Yeah, I know.
Wow, that's concerning, because if there are this kind of symptoms, that just majority of people might not even pay attention to or even understand.
You take a look at how many people have that function when they're driving. What we know is 50% of fatal automobile accidents occur when people have been drinking. And my contention is the other 50% are because people are in some stage of adrenal fatigue and they lose focus behind the wheel. And if you're driving your car, you can't be more than a second away from being in control of it. So if you look down, you need to look up real quick, because driving is and you're really engaged in staying on the road and staying away from other cars. But if you've got adrenal fatigue and you can't focus well and you drift off, you might just drift off into a tractor trailer, and they're gonna flatten you. Another thing is, we know about the sleep issue. We also know that people who have adrenal fatigue, they get sick a lot. They get depressed a lot. The thing about blood sugar regulation and depression and anxiety, your blood sugar has to be real stable. Well, it goes in a pattern when you eat it and so on, but it has to be well regulated. If it's spiking up and down, you're going to focus. All these bad symptoms you're going to have. And how many people say, I hate getting out of bed in the morning. Bring me coffee in bed. How are those for a few symptoms? And how many people actually have most of those? A lot of people have most of those symptoms. Small wonder people's health is where it is.
Yeah. Now, in comparison to, for example, some other societies, let's look at, for example, Asian societies. Doesn't matter what country, China, Japan, South Korea, North, whatever. The lifestyle, to what degree the lifestyle, given that for us, for example, we work constantly, 7 days a week, some people. So it's what we call the workaholic lifestyle person. To what degree that kind of lifestyle contribute to really this dysfunctions in the adrenal glands or the whole fatigue as a whole?
It's major contribution. Public education in this country was started by industry captains who wanted to produce a whole lot of people as laborers who could read and write. And it's like, these people are just here for us to use. Well, it's all well and good, but you can use them up. And I think that's what's happened. And the average manager works how many hours a week? 50. How many hours a week can people be truly productive? Well, that's up for grabs, but depending on the job. But what we know is it's no more than 35. And Henry Ford, from Ford Motor Company, way back in his day, he reduced it from 60, he reduced it to 50, he reduced it to 40. And what he found is at 40 hours a week, the people were so productive that they outperformed the people who were working 60 hours a week. And they got to have a life afterwards because they weren't exhausted at the point. He wanted to reduce it even further, but his board of directors refused it. He said, I think I can get it at 35 and they're going to really be highly productive and less stressed. So you talk to a manager who works 50 hours a week, they're tired. And so many people are doing jobs that they just detest. Yeah. They're trading time for money.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, for example, in Europe, and I do have family lives in Paris and so forth. So usually when we talk, the French society, when it comes down to really balancing, I won't say just France, it's the whole Europe. This balance between life and work, and there is some balance there. And the way you know it is that, for example, in France, if you start a job, doesn't matter. As soon as you start a job, you are entitled to 1 month vacation. And the 1 month vacation, unlike here in the US, you can cash that in. Because here in the US, you have to take it. They'll force you to take it. And that was for that reason. I asked the family about it, and they said, well, that's just how companies are here. They will not allow you to cash that in, and they want you out during the summer, whenever you want to take your month of vacation, paid for, of course, because they want to maintain your well-being. This way, when you come back fully charged.
I don't know how they got to that place, but the medical research backs that up completely.
Yeah.
How long does it take for a person to overcome the stress of their job? It takes 5 weeks of not doing that job to do a total reboot and come back rested and ready to work again. So in France, I don't know what it is in Germany or the other countries, but France is a real leader in that regard. And yes, that 1 month off makes a critical difference. Yeah. It's not 2 weeks here, a week there, and a week there. They have to be weeks in succession. They have to be weeks in a row to make that happen.
That's true. To the point that their parliament, I remember a few years ago, they passed a law. I don't know if it's still on the books or not. They passed a law that the full-time work week is 35 hours. This is why if you go to Paris and you walk at, let's say, 11 o'clock in the morning, you see people in the coffee shops. That's their lifestyle. That's their. So there was an argument about this with my own family. And I said, well, they told me, well, you guys, all you do is work. You don't enjoy life. So my argument to them was, but you guys are behind. Falling behind. So
yeah.
But I could see their argument. I understood where they're coming from. Once you start to realize, what are we working for? Why the stress to work, whatever, instead of enjoying life? And you end up having health issues as a result of that stress level.
I think it's Denmark. I didn't look at it this year. I looked at it 2 years ago. Where are the happiest people in the world, the lowest stress people in the world? Denmark. I'm going, Denmark? Where even is that? Well, I happen to know where it is, just a little bit north of Germany. And so the researchers went in and did all the blood work and so on, the questionnaires, and they tested stress levels in their blood and so on. And they said, these people, there's one other group that's just as happy, but they're in India. And Here's what it was. Their lives had they had reasonable expectations. They weren't striving to be a billionaire. They weren't striving to be the next Elon Musk. What's his name? Musk.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Yeah.
They weren't striving to be the next Bill Gates. They said, we want to have a reasonable life. They typically married young. They typically had reasonable expectations of this is how we're going to live our lives. And their stress level was low.
Hmm.
And I don't know what their economy is like. I didn't check that out.
Well, it's not bad. Scandinavians, I've spent a lot of time there,
Yeah.
even way back, but it's still, you look at it today, the index as far as the best countries to retire is Finland or Norway. I'm sorry. Norway or Iceland, best country in the world to retire to. Education, Finland is number one. Scandinavians always score good. They have that balance. I remember when I went to Helsinki, people are so happy. You don't see that stress. You don't see that driving crazy to get to whatever. They walk, they bike everywhere. They don't.
Yeah.
So the lifestyle is very, very different. And I was wondering if the lifestyle in itself for us here in the US is what's contributing to having people fatigued all the time.
You know darn well it is.
Yeah.
I started exploring a program called The Art of Slow Living.
Hmm.
And it's an international movement. And it has to do with we're going to walk wherever we go.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to know our neighbors. We're going to hang out with our children a lot. We're not going to strive.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually I think that the number was, they actually have a talking relationship with 107 different people. They know their name, they know their children's names, and they know what they do. Now, is that in depth? No. But they actually know that many people that they communicate frequently with because they're sitting outside and they walk by these people and say hello to them and have brief conversations. Think they'd work 60 hours a week? No.
Oh.
Do they do reasonable expectations, or do they buy the fanciest car they can, live in the biggest house they can, stress themselves to the max by saying, my kids have to go to the most expensive university there is? I'm going, does that do anybody any good?
Yeah.
Sure doesn't seem to me to be that way.
Yeah.
And that it was in like, I think it was 27 countries. There were major movements with it. I didn't follow it because I certainly couldn't live it.
Yeah. So how do we deal with this? If we are to approach this from the perspective of dealing with it, finding solutions, addressing this. I know the medical community here in the US, of course, they're going to prescribe medications and all that stuff.
First of all, they're going to deny the diagnosis. They're going to say, there is no such thing as adrenal fatigue.
Oh.
I'm going, have you guys been asleep? You know, I've got decades and decades of dealing with people effectively and helping them overcome adrenal fatigue. And there's very specific ways to do that. There might be one trick that people could use that would really help them, and that is the 6-minute way to find out if you've got it or not that you can do at home. You think that would be worthwhile?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what this looks like. You have to have a blood pressure cuff. You know, things which are, but now they got them to fit on your wrist. They got some real clever things. Mine fits right on my wrist. And you lay down someplace comfortable for 5 minutes. Then you measure your blood pressure. Then you immediately get up and you measure it again. Your blood pressure, the top number, which is typically around 130, this is the bigger number, has to go up 10 points when you stand on your feet. If it does not go up 10 points, very likely you have adrenal fatigue. If it goes up, then chances are you don't have severe adrenal fatigue, but we know you got some already because you live in America.
Stressful society.
Oh, God. Yeah. So here, there is no simple solution for this, especially since it takes time to get there. You're not going to do adrenal fatigue cure overnight. There are two particular products that I'm not associated with, but have used effectively to support people while they're in recovery, because they have to do the other things we're going to suggest.
Yeah.
One is by a company called Body Health, and it's called Perfect Aminos. You talk about overcoming inflammation, you talk about overcoming muscle stress and so on. These aminos build muscle tissue. They're excellent, and they're really cost effective. So it's Body Health is the company, and Perfect Aminos is the product. You can go online and you can buy it. The others is a product that goes directly after adrenal function and supports it nutritionally. And it's called Doctor's Research is the name of the company. Get it online. And it's called High Stress Adrenal. You take 2 of those twice a day, and you start feeling better in about 3 days. That's the easy part. Now comes the hard part.
Yeah. Before we do that, Doctor, I have 2 questions here from one from Phil. He's saying sunlight exposure. How good is that?
It's superior. Being out in the sun for most people is not very comfortable because it's too hot or it's too inconvenient. And there's a part of the United States called San Diego. It's in Southern California. Sunshine like 360 days a year. People will not go out in the sun.
Wow.
It is essential, though. This thing about vitamin D, in terms of your health, in terms of cancer prevention, if you can get out in the sun and expose a bunch of your skin 20 minutes to 60 minutes a day, you get all the vitamin D you need, especially if you're eating some salmon and getting some other oils in you that can be converted, because you need to do the combination. Yeah. The sun alone won't do it. You have to have nutrition to back it up.
I do 15 minutes. I don't do 20, but I do 15. And that's all I do. So, but I don't do nothing, just sit in the sun 15 minutes. I have another question from
David, do you take your shirt off while you do this?
Yes, I do.
I
only stay with shorts.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's what to do. Yes.
And that's it. So I get sweaty, of course, because of the sun, but it feels good after I take a cold shower. I don't take hot showers. I haven't taken a hot shower for years. I get used to the cold shower, so I only take cold shower.
Well, the health benefits of that are medically well researched.
And that's the reason why I do it, Doc. I researched it, and I was convinced about the results when I tried it a few years ago. Felt great and never went back to a hot shower. I don't. So Julia Jones, she wrote, adrenal fatigue is due to long-term stress.
She is right. She is absolutely right. It's long-term. Your body is really built to last. You've got to truly abuse it for a long time in most, for the adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
You've got to abuse it for a long time. You've got to experience all those ways of stress, including not eating well, not sleeping well, and so on, or being miserable. Those are killers. So she's right on.
Interesting. I have one more comment here from, I always like to have the viewers' inputs and part of our conversation here. Sang Tan, he wrote, sunlight also produces nitric oxide.
Now, I don't know. I know nitric oxide is good for a number of things, including male function sexually, and regulating. Well, it works inside the veins and arteries to expand them. I don't know a connection between sunlight and nitric oxide. So if he tells me it's true, I'm gonna lean that direction because it's just so good for you overall.
Yeah. Now, how do people can recover? This is again from Georgina Jones. How many people can recover from adrenal fatigue? Can they?
It's work. There's no two ways about this. It has to be a real commitment to this. And, you know, I worked with so many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people over many decades. The formula that works is you get into a group of other people who are not going to let you get away with being lazy or lose your focus. And say, okay, we're all dedicated to this. What are we going to do? Now, finding a group like that's not easy. Making the commitment to do this is hard work.
Yeah.
Now, do you get to live a much better life and a longer life? The answer is yes. You've got to figure out ways, and we already did a show on this, how to get restorative sleep. You just must get the sleep. You're never going to get adrenal recovery without restorative sleep. There's something people have this adrenal problem, typically wake up about 3:30 in the morning. It's called the adrenal hour. And it punches you right in the adrenal glands. It wakes you up. You get a cortisol spike because you're now deregulated with cortisol in the adrenal glands, and you're not going to get good sleep. So then you've got to dramatically reduce the amount of short chain carbohydrates. Bread, pasta, cookies, spaghetti, all these things that have these short chain carbohydrates in them, sugar of all kinds, because it spikes your cortisol and drops it up and down, causing adrenal deregulation, causing stress, causing your body to wear out. You're not supposed to be spiking this stuff. Here's when it really throws me. For decades now, I've been watching people do things to purposefully hurt their adrenal glands because they get a short-term spike of cortisol. You're going, well, what does that do? Well, you feel good. You ever see people who love to argue? What do you think is happening with those people? And we all know people like this. Their adrenal glands have to come into play because they're now in a fight mode. They get spikes of all these chemicals that the adrenal glands produce. They feel good temporarily. Then they go to a lower point than when they started. So they need another fight. But you talk about wear out your adrenal glands or deregulate the whole system. That does it. Here's another one. Go to a scary movie. How popular are scary movies these days? They're popular. They bring in hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're genuinely scary. What system's going to deal with that kind of a scare? Your adrenal glands. You got to give up scary movies. You got to give up war movies. You got to give up movies that are going to bring stress and tension into your life. And those things are enormously popular. I'm not surprised because of the short-term effect on your adrenal glands. You pump out the good stuff, but boy, you pay the price long-term. And it's especially important that you not do it in the evening. Well, when do people watch TV or go to the movies? It's in the evening. So their sleep is disrupted. It's even worse.
That's why I don't watch TV, so I don't bother with it.
Not a bad idea. Another one is never bother to argue with anybody. We talked about it a minute ago.
Yeah.
But it's really true. For one thing, you're not going to convince somebody that of your position. That's not what arguing is about. Arguing is about your adrenal glands and how to feel good while you're in the fight.
So there is hope for, let's say, if somebody's who's really been, let's say for the last 6 months, somebody's been feeling very tired and came to understand the reason why. So there is hope to deal with this without going through the traditional way of medications and all that stuff.
Well, medication simply doesn't work. There is no medication for it. I mean, they'll put you on certain kinds of drugs.
Yeah.
Let's say your symptom is you're tired and you say, well, I feel kind of sad. Now they're going to put you on an antidepressant. Oh my God, that's not what to do. Antidepressant, this was a real specialty of mine. Antidepressants destroy your brain. They destroy your brain, and there's no recovery from them.
Wow.
End of story.
Yeah.
And antidepressants, when mega studies were done, they found out that for every 100 people who was on antidepressant, let's see if I can do this, 7 were helped. 93 were not helped, but they stayed on the medication anyway. They got brain damage. Well, that means it's ineffective. There's not a question about the mega studies done by major university hospitals or medical schools. 7% were helped. That's shocking.
Wow.
In any event, that's not the way to go. It gets even harder. If you hate your job and you hate your boss, and it causes you great stress, oh, it gets tough. Now what do you do? Because you got to change jobs. That is not an easy function. That in and of itself is stressful. Long term, it probably work out better for you.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, that is not easy. Especially since you might walk into a situation that's just as bad as the one you came out of.
Wow.
But you hear my job is killing me. Well, they're not joking.
Yeah, usually we say the expression jokingly, but in reality, it's not a joke.
People are telling the truth.
Oh, I remember those stressful days back in Washington, D.C. when I was there. And at least I kind of managed it. And the way I managed it was I didn't have a TV. That's one thing. I never bought a TV. So one last thing is I'm in bed early at 2100 hours. I'm in bed till about 06 or so. The sleep that I managed, but I also avoided negative people. Any negative people I stay away from. I didn't waste my energy into dealing with issues of no importance to me. So that's
there's such wisdom in that. Negative people, it's like absolutely you have to avoid them.
Yeah.
If someone in it is consistently in interaction with you and they make you feel bad, what system are they hurting the most? Your adrenal system.
Yeah.
Which affects every other part of your life.
That's very interesting. Here's a comment here from it's not my question per se. Georgia John, she wrote, come back. It comes back to sleep, healthy diet, and exercise. Is that correct?
She's correct as far as she went. Is that a feminine name?
Georgia, yes.
Okay. The thing we're talking about now about personal relationships is the fifth part of this equation. You've got to be around people who are supporting your life and supporting your dreams and supporting you living life in your terms. You get around someone who's trying to control you all the time, or someone who criticizes you, or someone who you can't be with them if you're going to live the big dream. If you're going to live life in your terms and you're going to flourish in this life, they will diminish you by exhausting you.
Wow, that's not a way of living.
You get around someone who's really who needs to control you. There's no way to change them. They are relentless in their need to control your behavior. It doesn't do them a bit of good because they can't control it enough. And they're attempting to manage their own bad feelings by getting you to do what they want you to do, but it doesn't work. But so they try harder. Eventually they wear you out.
Yeah.
Any other thing of joie de vivre, you lose it.
Yeah. Well,
true. So there's that whole thing of you got to be around the right people. And all these things have to work if your life is going to work. It's complicated and challenging. Many of us have found ways to do it because we understand what we're up against, and it took a long time to get there. But because I know all these things, and you do too, we're managing pretty well and lead pretty darn happy lives.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Because
Well,
every one of them,
I certainly am not feeling tired today since I woke up this morning.
yeah,
I'm
which
tired
is
that.
just right.
Yeah, and I put it as Phil wrote: sunlight, sleep, and be nice to your adrenal gland. That's a good one, Phil. Very, very good one. So, well,
Here's
Doc, yeah, go ahead.
there's one clue that I think would be really helpful for people,
Yeah,
especially in terms of interpersonal relationships. What we have is any number of people who are going to try to control us. They're going to try to criticize us. They're going to try all these things, and take the position of kindness, and in your own way, kindly say, "That's not something I'm interested in." There's no
perfect.
need to get mad at them. There's no need to do anything negative, because anything you do that's negative wears out your adrenal glands and causes fatigue and all that chain reaction happens afterwards. So kindness is actually the way to do it, mostly. Sometimes you have to stand up real firm, but
Of course.
mostly kindness works.
Indeed. Well, we can't thank you enough, Doc. It was a very, very interesting insights, and we look forward to next week. We'll figure out what a topic will be. And by the way, guys, just want to let you know, we will be talking about really some heavy stuff as we move forward. Now that we crossed over 1,000 subscribers, so there will be any interest in our viewers wanting to know more about these health issues. And I personally have some stories to share down the road. One of them has to do with some, for example, since I started taking supplements, how it changed my life, literally, but also the lifestyle that I lead and the way I eat and so forth. And I wanted to share that knowledge with all our viewers here. So thank you so much, Doc. We truly appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you next week. You take care. Bye-bye. Well, guys, I hope you find this very, very informative. And once again, we can't thank enough Dr. Stewart for really allocating time for us. He's busy with his schedule. He's busy with his coaching, and he deals with so many other stuff. And yet, when I approached him and asked him for this, he said, "No way I will do this for you and your viewers at the channel. This is about learning." So we are so grateful to have somebody with his knowledge to be able to share it with us on a weekly basis. This is kind of information you're not going to find anywhere else. So I hope you find it very informative. And as always, remember, your health is your best asset. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.